purest way. Since then, I think the thinking has evolved. And the business school I went to now talks about businesses as being a force for good in society. A force for good in society. And naturally, the more purest role of business, which is to create jobs, pay their taxes, and provide high quality products and services to their consumers, is certainly still there. That's the traditional role of business. But we are not operating in a developed country context. We are operating in a country, as Shri Kanthaji pointed out, which is a very, very poor country as well. And in that very poor country, in a developing country, I don't think we can think about business in a purest sense. We have to think about business in a more expansive way. And as we think about business in a more expansive way, the idea of CSR, which of course is now enshrined in law and in some ways is a very progressive legislation, even though I remember all of the debates back and forth about when it was actually being passed in Parliament, whether it was restricting businesses and imposing certain restrictions on them. That debate was a very, very intense debate. But all in all, I for one am very glad that this law has been passed and it's on the statute books now. Because it really forces businesses to think much more carefully about what their role in society is. And as businesses, and defined now as a force for good, think about their role in society and think more expansively under the spur of the CSR legislation, I think we will begin to evolve in India our very own unique form of a market economy, a very unique form of capitalism. That is the opportunity, and that is the expansive and I think interesting way that we should think about it. There is one aspect of CSR which is simply one of writing checks. And so a lot of civil society organizations, a lot of NGOs will go to businesses and say, please write me a check. And they should do that. It's important. It needs to be done. They need the checks for sure. But I don't think civil society, NGOs, and we as society should stop there. I think we need to go beyond that. The idea of the law is not simply that 2% of your profit should go into CSR. I think what the law is saying and what we as society should say, because the law ultimately is an expression of what we as society think about business, needs to go much beyond that. And the good news, ladies and gentlemen, is that in our society we have a number of great companies, whether it's the Tatas, Infosys with Infosys Foundation, of course what Mr. Premji is doing. There are many good examples of companies that have thought of themselves as a force for good in society. And that is what the CSR legislation enables us to be able to engage businesses on, as a force for good. Now, how do we do that? How do we think of CSR in a way that goes beyond simply the check writing? And I don't